Morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me to Sutton Carers this morning, both online and in person. Yes, so I'm Claire Swetnam. I work for Queen Elizabeth Foundation Mobility Services, QEF for short. I lead on Hub's Mobility Advice Service, which is a service for wanting to get the mobile outside your house in way of alternative transport other than if you know you can't no longer drive, you never know to drive, but we'll talk about that later. There is quite a few slides. I will read the slides just in case you are on a phone and you can't actually read the presentation, but you can hear. The QEF Mobility Services, Driving and Other Options. We deliver expert services that enable disabled people to achieve their potential and live with greater independence. So a little bit about Queen Elizabeth Foundation. It's a registered charity with 85+ years experience of developing innovative services. We support 10,000 disabled people a year to achieve their potential and increase their independence. We work with children and adults with physical and learning disabilities or acquired brain injuries. And we have a wide range of expert services. So we've got many services. We've got a care and neuro rehabilitation centre that's in Leatherhead Court. We're providing neuro rehabilitation and nursing care to support people to regain core skills following an acquired brain injury, stroke, incomplete spinal injury or neurological illness. It can accommodate 48 patients at a time. General stay is a majority of 6 weeks. Then we have mobility services. That's where I'm based. That's in Carshalton. We're providing driving assessments, mobility advice and driving lessons to support disabled people and those with age-related impairments. I would say mobility services, 50% of our clients are for driving assessments, 50% are for alternative services, for example, driving lessons, but we'll go into that in a bit more detail a bit later on. We have the Grange in Kent, providing support for up to 25 people in a range of residential and supporting living settings in Cranbrook, Kent and the surrounding areas. And then we have Maru that's on site with us at Mobility Services in Carshalton. Maru designs and manufactures specialist assistive equipment for disabled children and young people, such as the travel chair and Bugsy. We'll get onto the travel chair a bit later on. What I would say, if you've got any child that has got a toy that needs to be adapted, Maru is the place to go to. And the Bugsy is a small wheelchair. It's like a little dinosaur for children at age 2 to 8. Because they don't have a wheelchair from the NHS until generally the age of 8. So it gives them that little bit of freedom and mobility. And then we have accessible aviation, disability awareness training for organisations and practical support and advice for disabled people considering flight. But we'll go on to that a bit later on as well. So that's like a general view. And you might well see, I think we've got about 7 or 8 charity shops scattered around. I think our nearest one here is Banstead. So QEF Mobility Services, one of the UK's largest providers of mobility advice and support for people with disabilities and age-related impairments. So we're part of Driving Mobility. We're endorsed by them. We're accredited also by the police, DVLA, Transport for London, and the charity Motability, you might well heard of. We provide driving lessons and assessments, as well as mobility advice and equipment recommendations. So just to clarify, mobility advice, equipment recommendations, it's equipment effectively for you, perhaps getting your wheelchair into your vehicle. Equipment whereby it might be a mobility scooter or powered wheelchair. It's the storage of that equipment. We don't deal with mobility around the home, so that, but we can put you in touch. Well, we can give you information, signpost you to retailers in the local area. We complete around 1,300 mobility assessments each year. QEF, Try Before You Fly, supports disabled people to travel by air, and Hub's Mobility Advice Service, in which I am lead on within this area, provides accessible transport information. So if you're finding it hard to continue driving due to a new or old disability, or finding it hard to drive due to weakness, then QEF may be able to help. An assessment with an occupational therapist and a driving assessor will give you the opportunity to discuss your driving concerns, and they will be able to advise on adaptation alternatives to give you a more comfortable driving experience. Driving assessments usually take about 3 hours. They're very thorough. They'll get your history before your medical condition, your current history of your medical condition, what you can do, what you can't do. You'll have a little eyesight test whereby they'll get you to read a car number plate, similar to where you're testing that way, but in no way is it a test. It's just to make sure you can do a safe drive. And then at the end, you get a comprehensive report. If it's a DVLA that referred you for a driving assessment, that will be sent on to them. You can additionally ask for your report to be sent to you as well. You can even come for like a self-referral. Often helps if in sort of my service often come across family members that are a bit worried that perhaps father's got dementia, they shouldn't be driving, and they might have told a little bit of a white lie that the doctor said you should no longer drive, and they feel awful about it. But this is the way to determine, because that 3 hour assessment is very comprehensive, so they're not going to let you drive if you're not safe to do so. So it's quite good. So you can self-refer. I think it's about £320. That is very heavily subsidised. We are helped supported by the Department for Transport. So we do driving lessons, having to learn on a car with adaptations, or alternatively you are disabled and wishing to drive, then QEF can help. So people that do come for driving assessments, say for example they're an amputee recently, and it would be much better to have hand controls than obviously the floor pedals, and then they get assessed on the adapted car, find that that's a route they want to go down, and then they'll have a few driving lessons, and then they'll go back to having a driving assessment in order that they're cleared and safe to drive. So there's varying things. We also do the theory test as well, which if someone's got autism and they need that help, we're happy to do that. So what is a driving assessment? A session with an occupational therapist and an advanced driving instructor to review your driving ability. You'll be given an honest opinion of your skills and advice to help support you driving, as long as it's safe for you to do so. So we often get people that have been waiting quite a while for a driving assessment, phone up the day before, very worried that obviously they think they're going to have a driving test that they might have had many, decades ago. It's not like that. We're a friendly team, put you at ease straight away. We've got a waiting room at QEF, we've got tea and coffee making facilities and a vending machine, and actually it feels very sort of much like you're in your own home. And they're so supportive, the team. I mean, I've been there 15 months now, and they're just so passionate about what they do, and we get so much positive feedback. They really enjoyed their time with us, so that's good. So this is the private track. There is many driving mobility centres around the country, and we are fortunate to be one of two that has our own private driving track. Anyone coming to QEF for mobility service for a driving assessment will go out onto public roads. The fortunate side of us having a private driving track is you will not be driving in your own car, but one of our vehicles. So you will have that opportunity of getting used to the vehicle prior to heading out on the public roads. And we'll discuss driving assessments a bit later. But it does help. And also, if you're coming to QEF for a mobility scooter assessment, powered wheelchair assessment, you get the different terrain. Obviously, it looks like the picture that's all on the flat, but there is a little bit of terrain. So you can kind of get used to various path conditions. Also, if you're category 3 mobility scooter or wheelchair, then obviously you can go on the roads, so you can have a go there and know it's safe in the knowledge that you're not actually using the public roads in regards to your assessment. And we also have, you might see in that picture on the right hand side, we've got our own little pedestrian crossing. So it's a good way in enabling the assessor to determine whether you're safe in even pressing the button, because I have seen some assessments where people are trying out mobility scooters and they're halfway in the road before they even get to press the button. So yeah, it's lovely. So recommendations are made in some circumstances. It may be that a few adaptations will help to drive safely. So here's examples of push, pull, brake, accelerator and steering ball. So rather than you having pedals on the floor, everything is accessible to drive with your hands. So there's varying different ones, push, pull, or in a ring within a driving steering wheel. And just a simple adaptation need not be expensive and could extend your driving experience for many years to come. And we can, for example, make you aware of adaptation specialists if you feel that that would be advantageous. You can have the simplest of equipment to aid. The image on the left is a simple mechanism that you put into the locking system of the door. It helps. And then obviously if you've got a walking stick, on the right hand image, there's a magnet, so you can easily place it on the side of the car, which is obviously an adaptation that helps you get in and out of the car independently. And here we're sort of about loading of mobility equipment into a vehicle. So QEF have demonstration vehicles showing loading of equipment, example, mobility scooters. So you're not having to, your partner or yourself having to, well, it could invariably cause you back pain and having to pick up heavy pieces of equipment. So we're quite open to people coming and visiting us and having a look at the equipment that we have on show. We do child car seat assessments for disabled children. And this is Paul on the right, is our senior occupational therapist. He's demonstrating the seating and transferring into a vehicle, which to help obviously, whether it be passenger or a driver, so they can get in and out easier. So he goes through various adaptations with you. Every assessment that you have, you'll get a comprehensive report at the end. So if it's a piece of equipment that you find that you want to then purchase, you can go along to the retailer with your report. And QEF mobility service, we have a wheelchair mobility scooter assessment. So this image on the left, this is Lady Ruth. She met us at an event and she wanted to have a wheelchair that she could use as a walker. And her husband wanted a wheelchair for her that was easy to put in the car. They wanted to try out various power packs. So what we did is we got the gentleman on the left, he's from Wheel Freedom, and he came along with 5 different wheelchairs, 5 different power packs, and then they were like mix and match which was the best for what they required. This is the gentleman on the right, he's Richard. He was on the Tonight programme. Actually, we were featured on the Tonight programme about those elderly people that were driving. And he featured on that, but this is a picture of he came along on one of our open days, just turned up with the hopeful possibility of trialling out a mobility scooter. He loved it. It was like a duck to water, he was. And yeah, fortunately the lady on the left, she had a spare half an hour, did a little bit of triage, finding out about his medical condition. And then he had a little trial around and he was happy as Larry. And then we were able for him to come back and have a thorough assessment with us. So he's found it, that it's inevitable. You know, where he lives, he wanted to be independent, wanted to visit his shops, didn't want to be reliant on his sons getting in his groceries, etc. So all good. So short-term wheelchair and mobility scooter hire. So yeah, if you've like, for example, broken your leg or just come out of hospital and you need a wheelchair, or you've got granny coming over visiting you from Yorkshire or something, and you need a wheelchair for granny for the week, you can come and hire one of us. I think usually retailers expect you to do for at least a month. So I think we're quite, quite fortunate, and then we just do the week. So, and then also the lady on the right, Anne, her name was, she was one of my clients. She came from mobility scooter assessment, and she felt we've always recommend that you hire a mobility scooter out for a while, to just see how you get on. Access into a garage was a bit of a talking point as to where it was very steep, so we didn't know if she'd get the momentum to get up the slope to even reach the path level. So before actually purchasing one, it was a good trial. And actually she came back and she fed back that this particular mobility scooter, she felt her arm was aching when she was using it. And the gentleman in the picture, the senior OT, suggested that when she does purchase one, she gets the next model up, which has better shock absorbers. So invariably, there's lots of reasons for trialing out something prior to purchase. This is part of a cabin, a plane, which has the regular sort of seating. And what we do is transfer mobility and seating assessments to help you when travelling by air. So it's a bespoke service. You can have a bespoke remote consultancy or face-to-face meeting with our occupational therapist on accessibility advice when using an airport or airline. In addition, you can come for a travel seating assessment with an occupational therapist, where you can try out various seating solutions in actual aircraft cabin, here on the picture. And children and adults are catered for. I think our youngest applicant is probably age 2, and I think we had somebody who was 99. So obviously you've got the standard cabin seat, but we make sure that with various cushions, travel chairs that you can hire from us, that you have a more comfortable flight. So we can advise, like I say, we can advise on airport accessibility. It needn't be that you have an assessment with us and a one-to-one. The service that I lead on, we can talk you through special assistance that you could get from the airline and the airport, and how you need to make them aware prior to your visit with them, your flight, and to make it a smooth and enjoyable experience. We do collaborate with British Airways. We do a 2-day training course for professionals. So we're all up to date on what's happening. This is me. So I'm like to say, I work for QEF Mobility Services. I work on alternative transport with the Hubs Mobility Advice Service, and we are funded and supported by the Department for Transport. We've got 1 more year, they gave us 3 years of funding, and it's becoming a success. It's obviously getting the word out there. Professionals do refer people onto us, but it's also self-referral. So I'll give you the details at the end, should anyone want to know about alternative transport. So alternative transport advice, if you're disabled, frail or pensionable age, the Hubs Mobility Advice Service can help you accessible travel support. We had a yearly open day, and this is a picture of us on the right, me and Leslie. And we have a stall on the open day, should anyone want to obviously visit QEF and have a look, and we can talk through various alternative transport, and then we can have like a bespoke chat either on the phone or in person, at a later date to glean a bit more information to make sure that we can signpost you to all the various schemes, organisations that there is. Still on the hubs, so again, if you're due to your disability, you cannot travel by public transport, then the Hubs Mobility Advice Service can advise you on community transport, a door-to-door service, which is a 14-seat minibus there on the right. So fortunate that we are in the London Borough of Sutton, you got the Transport for London and have the Dial-a-Ride scheme, where you can book for them to come and pick you up at your door, drop you off at whether it be going to see friends, going to the shopping centre, then at a designated point they'll pick you up and then take you back to your home again. And that's all through, we signposted to the local authority on that, but we give you information about whether it be by post or we can send you all the email links. It's completely up to you, but what we can do, have a friendly chat over the phone and glean all your information and how we can ultimately help you get around in your community. This is, we often get inquiries about people that are in wheelchairs and they need taxi accessibility to get to medical appointments. So invariably you'll find that wheelchair accessible vehicle taxis, the taxi company, their bread and butter is effectively the transport to the schools, so which you can account for, that, you know, that's their regular bread and butter. And unfortunately you find that appointments will cross over when that school pickup is and there's not taxis available. So we collaborate with taxi firms and hopefully we can impart some information on taxi firms that we do know that don't perhaps do the school drop-offs and pickups. So we have maybe can advise on free public transport and discounts. So you get to a certain age, obviously you can get your freedom pass, gives you access onto the trains and buses. If you're not of pension age, then we can look into your disability and you can get pay reduced fees on either means of public transport. So we can look into all that for you. You can advise on mobility scooters and wheelchair hire schemes. So you have the shop mobility. In Sutton you have shop mobility. It's not under the shop mobility scheme as such, which is run by Driving Mobility, but they're just as good. And they're usually, and like such as the Sutton one, you'll see it in the St Nicholas Centre. Not sure what floor, probably the first floor, where all the driving, disability driving parking spaces are. And the good thing about shop mobility is they usually you get them on the coast as well. So say you had a disability and you're going to go to Bournemouth for the week and you're staying at a particular hotel. If you've contacted shop mobility prior, you might be able to get a mobility scooter dropped off there at the hotel in which you're staying at for the duration of your week. So it's quite handy. And also the shop mobility in Sutton. If you have a mobility scooter or wheelchair, they do repairs and you can buy second-hand equipment, I understand. So well worth knowing. So we do additional guidance on the hub service. We touch on benefits. Often have clients that just, you know, go through what benefits you get. Do you know about this benefit you can claim? Do you realise that you can perhaps get a reduction on your council tax? Various things, also personal mobility equipment advice, so with scooters. So we can advise them about having a mobility scooter assessment, and I must admit, I'd say 50% of our clients that come through to the hubs are actually interested in having a mobility scooter, so it's very much on the increase. But what we can ascertain is, do you want that mobility scooter for your use just on the pavements, or are you happy in accessing public transport with a mobility scooter? Because these all have to take into account before you actually go and purchase one. Because many people have come across, they've purchased one that's just for the pavements, and then it doesn't fit the criteria for that bus for them. and then getting on the bus, and they wish that they'd have known about that information. And there is like a mobility scooter highway code that we can give them. We can tell them about insurance companies, because they should get insured. And it's all talking about what category mobility scooter perhaps you want to go, because there is 3 different categories. But we can give that additional information. What I like to do is not bombard people with information. It's all like baby steps. Let's see how you get on with a mobility scooter. Let's see if you can control one properly. Most do. But then we go on to, right, let's have a look, see whether you want to hire one first, or are you under the Motability scheme? If you're under the Motability scheme, you might want to know that you can lease a car if you're on the enhanced PIP, but also if you're not a driver, then you can lease a mobility scooter or powered wheelchair. So we can talk about that. So we're ensuring valuable people have accurate information on transport in their area. Example, Transport for London apps, route planning tools. So we can signpost you, give you all the information on apps that you can have if you've got a smartphone. It can help you invariably if you're going out on a trip and you know that there's on a particular platform there's a lift. Transport for London is continually updating the app regularly, that and the daily, at least hourly, half hour, as to if any lifts are out, so you can know how to plan your route to your benefit. Reconnecting with mental health support available and community engagement. We often have clients that come with their loved ones that's having a driving assessment. They feel quite that in their roles changed with their partner. They're now the driver. They're having to care for their loved ones, and we can give them support in where to go to help them with that support, whether they need respite, etc. So we can signpost them to those groups, those charities. Blue badges can discuss about when you fill out. We don't unfortunately help you fill out application forms, but we can signpost you to organisations that do. And we can give you a bit of advice when you come to fill out a form, what you need to put in the form in order to get a blue badge. We do about support for hidden disabilities. You might know about sunflower lanyard. Shows that you've got a hidden disability, but you don't want anyone to know that you've got that hidden disability, and say somebody's working for the bus service, they're aware and they'll come to your aid without there having to be initial there's a problem, and just to see whether you're okay. Examples of client stories. So one, I wasn't aware of being eligible for Motability scheme in leasing a powered wheelchair. The gentleman was 28, cerebral palsy, had a manual wheelchair, obviously contacted various services and I said, well, we've given you a manual wheelchair, we can't give you a powered one. He actually had he was accepted for a job with a civil servant, and invariably by the time in which he'd have used public transport, etc., with a manual wheelchair, he'd have been absolutely exhausted, so let alone start his day at his desk and whatever he was doing. So he was quite happy knowing that he hasn't got to be reliant on taxis due to the fact that he was on enhanced PIP. He could actually lease a power wheelchair, and then from there we signpost him to lots of other things. We can help him with apps, etc., and what we've spoke of on the earlier slide. Unaware of charity in Merton who would fund wheelchair power pack yet. Had a client, they were very low on funds. Had a big chunky manual wheelchair that they pushed their son of 20 around in, so he's got cerebral palsy. And we looked into various funding options, and they had a local charity that helped with that. I'm pleased to say that they can now take their son out in this wheelchair with the power pack that obviously aids with the power in pushing it, and not physical power from his mother, his main carer. So that was a success story. We've got information on wheelchair accessible transportation other than purchasing a wheelchair accessible vehicle. Oh yes, and this was a family member, a daughter that phoned up, said that her mother was in a care home, she was 95, and could she be made aware of charities that would fund for a wheelchair accessible vehicle? That wasn't going to happen, but we gave her further information of a charity in North London that hires out for 1 day to 2 weeks a wheelchair accessible vehicles. All they want is to top up the petrol and what else? Yeah, just give a small donation to the charity. So, and then also talking about dial-a-ride, because you get accessibility with your wheelchair on that, and then the daughter will be able to go as well along with the mother because she'd be classed as the mother's carer. So there was alternatives. So made her aware, so she was quite happy. Happy in being signposted to community transport who offered monthly excursions. Yeah, there is local to Sutton, another area that actually does monthly excursions out, and very cheap they are. So we can signpost you to that if you want to fancy a trip down the coast. I think it would just cost you £10, but we can tell you about that. Information on wheelchair hire schemes for as little as a week. That'd be obviously QEF, who I spoke earlier. And then being made aware of car adaptations for comfortable drive. So if you're saying that, for instance, you've got arthritis and you find it hard to move the hand stick, then there might be a simple adaptation that costs you £100, where it's more of a lever-based adaptation rather than clenching your fists and fingers around the gear stick. So you might have more years of pleasure in driving the vehicle you've currently got. There's no point in getting an automatic or something else. QEF Mobility is an open day. Everyone is welcome to our open day. We are based, I don't know if everyone knows, it's the sovereign state. Well, if anyone's old like I am and know the area, I think quite well, if you knew of the old Queen Mary's Hospital site. So yeah, we're at the top of Metcalfe Avenue, up by now the new Sovereign Housing Estate. That's what they built on the site, but we're one of the remaining buildings from the original Queen Mary's Hospital. Yeah, between 10 and 4, we have an open day. Everyone's welcome. You don't have to tell us you're coming before. Like I said in the earlier slides, Richard, he came just for an ad hoc chance of a mobility scooter assessment. I would say is just don't do what Richard do and just turn up in hope. But if you do tell us in time, we can actually put you nearer the date for a mini assessment, and we can just book you in for that. And then at a later date, you can have a full assessment. So you can tour the facilities and see what is on offer. Yeah, so it's 1 Metcalfe Avenue, Carshot, SM5 4AW. All are welcome. We have tea and coffee facilities up there. People turn up with their little packed lunch. That's fine. We can accommodate that. Yeah, and we usually have, we did have 2 talks last year, one on dementia, one for approved driving instructors that were thinking of perhaps becoming training people with disabilities to drive, and stroke. I think there's a talk on stroke. So I'm not sure what we've got planned for this year, but we can always let you know. We can let Sutton carers obviously know what we plan on that day, but that's a set time and date anyway. Thursday, 11th of July, 10 to 4. And there's my contact details. And if anyone's got any questions, or or you just want to jot down the number for QEF, if you want to phone us. If we can't help you, we know somebody that will. Obviously, it is mobility outside the home. So our switchboard number is 020 8770 1151. The lines do close daily at 3:30, but there is a voicemail service, so you can leave a message and we'll pick it up from there and get back in contact with you. Or alternatively, you can email me on hubs, HUBS, mobility, MOBILITY, at QEF Look forward to answering any questions, queries that you have.